Hello and welcome back to By Sword and Musket, our channel where we look at historic and interesting arms, motivation behind collecting, and specifically some of the types and historical links that we can discover through the study of what is in front of us. So today I've had this gun for quite a long time, and I wanted to do a video about it because this one has got a tantalizingly close hint at the history that surrounds the weapon. Now, this is a Mark II star, so it means it was converted from a percussion musket. Now, the cartridge is quite amazing. It's 577. So there's an empty case. 577. And there is a 12-ball case. So put them right next to each other. You can see that you're going to get a fair wallop from this rifle. Now, these are a much missed rifle because really there haven't been any really good films about these, and they tend to be ignored. So my point is that in the case of the Martini Henry, the obvious film is the Zulu film and the second one. But there's been no real Snider-Enfield period military film, to my knowledge. Anybody can correct me on that if they wish. But Snider does appear in the latest edition of The White Feather, which is very good, with Kate Hudson and other fine actors, where a native rifleman takes a pot shot at the British. Now, let's get into this piece specifically. Now, the difference between a private build and a tower build is quite obvious, really, as soon as you look at them. But they've really gone the extra mile with this one, and they've left some tantalizing clues. Now, this would have been bought by an officer who had to equip himself, his uniform, and his weapons. So if they said to him, you need a 3-band Snider, he would have gone off and got one of these. And what's quite interesting is that it's privately made by the London Armoury Company, but also we have an indication to the outlet, which is James Kerr and Son in London. So let's have a close look at the gun itself, the rifle itself, and just familiarise ourselves with some of the more obvious points on this mark. Most obviously, what we have here is a long gun, a very long gun. I can imagine that it probably got even longer with the addition of a socket, triangular socket type bayonet. So 577 almost consumes my chubby finger. 3 bands holding the barrel on. Side lock, beautifully made by the London Armoury Company. It says London Armoury Company, 54 King William's Street, EC. Got a superb bit of bordering around the outside of the lock, which is repeated on the hammer. Get you to see that. See it running around here. So no replacement hammer, original hammer there. It also has the Royal cipher for Victoria and VR underneath the monogram. So that's the original lock, which was in position when the musket was either converted, or it may be that this was built privately. So the next most obvious part to look at is the lock mechanism. So above the breech ring, we have a clear 2 and a star, followed by another star. This is a Mark II double star. I can't tell you at this moment what the exact stars, what they stand for, but there'll be little alterations like sights or extractors or something mechanical. There are the sights. These are an open U and V sight when the sight is laying down, with a graduated ramp. This goes 1, 2, 3, 400 yards on the side, and then from 5 to 800 in the upright position. The lock also bears the LSA maker's name, but as with all of these things, that would have to be inspected and passed by one of the official government inspectors, and there is the government inspector's mark there. It looks like a crown, an X, and possibly a 2. You've got a clear crow's foot on the protection for the firing pin that looks more like a percussion nipple than anything. There's a clear crow's foot on there. So the idea was, you simply loaded by hand, popped your case in there. When you had shot, you would pull the breech block backwards on this sprung rod at the side, and it wants to return, and that would break the seal for primary extraction. Then you tip it over or hook it out. So quite a centerfire, quite a thumping great rifle. Beautifully engraved hammer here. Let's look at some of the some other things which crept in from being a private build. If this was an Enfield or tower type weapon, you would not have this. So very fine, I don't mean fine in size, but a very well executed diamond checkering to improve grip. It's on both sides, it's symmetrical, but remember, done by hand, and I've tried it, and it's a challenge. And then further up on the fore end, in front of the lock, we've got the same thing, and it's really nice. You can really feel it. It's got quite a depth to it. The rest of the stock is plain. It has a full-length cleaning rod underneath, and that little chain contains this device, which is really a nipple protector. So that goes on there. The hammer is then dropped. It doesn't unnecessarily damage the end of the firing pin or the nipple part. So, as we know, made by London Armoury, And look at this. What do we have here? We have a lovely clear cartouche which says London Armoury, 54 King William Street, EC. And then in the middle, across the middle, it says JAS.Care and Son, KERR. Now they would have been the retailers that the officer gentleman would have gone to purchase his uniform, his sword, sidearm, and eventually as well this rifle. And now comes the really intriguing part. Ordinary steel butt plate, but on this tang is a tantalizing hint of where this rifle was issued and the actual person that owned it. And guess what? You can't read it with the human eye. What I have, I believe, found out from many hours of staring and trying to do rubbings and all sorts of things, magnifying glasses, different kinds of light, is that it's to a captain in the 1st Lancashire Rifle Volunteers. So that's a rather nice piece of information. Now, if anybody just happens to have something like an electron microscope or some kind of piece of kit that we could get a better look at that with, like an electron microscope or, some super duper thing, I'd be very interested to get in touch and possibly send that part for further inspection. Just look over the rest of the rifle. We have the classic line of proof and inspection marks up there, which is always on these rifles, and there it goes, 3-band. Now this is a 3-groove, I believe, full length weapon, extremely effective and in lovely original condition. Now, a friend of mine knows his way about the research a little bit better than I do, and has come up with a copy of the London Gazette for 1860 purely as an example. And one that jumps out here is the 1st Lancashire Rifle Volunteer Corps, and this would be the type of person that this weapon went to. And it mentions a Lieutenant John Lord Howard to be captain. Vice Taylor resigned. Dated 29th of October 1860. James Lister, the younger gent, to be Lieutenant. Vice Howard promoted. Dated 29th of October 1860. So there is more research to be done on this, and if modern technology could help us read that corroded inscription, who knows what we might find out, what we might discover. So thanks for joining me again for this look at a rather nice military collectible. What's unusual about the fact that it's military is that you very rarely can get a name to a military weapon. Swords, yes, you get a bit more inscription on those, but very rarely anything like this. So if anybody's got any comments, information, or anything they'd like to share, I'll be only too happy to discuss with them. The comments are always open on these videos. Please click like and click subscribe, and you will be regularly updated as to what we're looking at and what we're interested in. So enjoy your gun collecting. If you want to see even more of these, have a look at the website, which goes under www.buyswordandmusket.co.uk. This is Kirk, signing off. Thanks for joining me. Happy collecting.